It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than just a car. It's the two-door coupe that was there for your first drive, the hatchback that took you cross-country and back, and the minivan that tackles the weekly carpool. For the cars you couldn't live without, trust Amica Auto Insurance. Amica, empathy is our best policy.
We back. The Monday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast has everything that you need to know to dominate this upcoming week, especially top waiver wire targets that you need to be looking at. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers. Shout out to everybody making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Look, everybody, much love for always tuning in to listening to Steele and I. We rarely get personal. Today's episode is dedicated to one of the best people on the planet, Grandma, Mom, Mother-in-laws, Ann Anderson. We love you so much. You're going to get better real soon. Steele, fantasy hockey season, we hope people's teams out there are already better, thriving, just like Grandma's going to be. Waiver wire. We got targets. We got bets. We're keeping today super short and sweet. Perhaps for the first time in 2 years, but also Aiden Hill. Golden Knights have been a hot topic. Lots of moves at the deadline. Aiden Hill has been sensational for the last, year and a half. He's out, and I don't know if you watch this play, which now I have a couple of times. One of those non-contact movements. It doesn't look pretty. Logan Thompson's in the cage. What's your take on this Vegas Golden Knights situation?
Yeah, it looked like a routine pad save, but clearly something didn't feel right afterwards, and he exits to the third period. That's exactly what we saw with Ilya Samsonov in the Toronto Maple Leafs game against the Edmonton Oilers. It was it seemed to be like a routine save where he's going from post to post. He didn't hit it, and something tweaked. He left the game, but obviously the news came out that Samsonov's going to be all right. And he shouldn't miss any time whatsoever. The same can't be said for Aiden Hill. We don't know how severe it is, but he left the game after making 12 saves on 13 shots against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So for me personally, I have Aiden Hill. It looks like I'm done. I'm out of the playoffs in the first round. Okay. I was going up. I finished 8th. I was going up against the top guy. I was battling very, very hard, but Saturday caught up to me. I'm down by 25 points now going into Sunday. So it looks like it's over for me, but everybody out there who has Aiden Hill, hoping that it's not a serious injury. Hopefully he doesn't even miss any games to this point because Vegas has 4 games this upcoming week. Yes. I'm going to touch on that when we get to waiver wire.
Look, they also, I don't know if you saw this, and I don't know when this news was announced, not too late on Sunday night or afternoon. They've actually recalled an AHL goalie, Yuri Patera, from the Henderson Silver Knights. So
maybe they're just gonna keep him out of the lineup for a little bit before the last week or so of the regular season.
You can't help but feel that obviously they want their number one goaltender in there. But if it means right now you're playing the long game, and after all the moves you made at the deadline, you're expecting very much so for your team to compete here down the stretch, this is the move you have to make, right? And actually, this is a George McPhee, and all the front office. I'm forgetting the front office savant, McCarron. These guys have been crushing. McCrimmon, thank you, McCrimmon, have been crushing these moves for the Vegas Golden Knights. So if it means protecting Adin Hill, even slightly injured against the Blue Jackets over the weekend, it makes sense. But Logan Thompson, immediately take a look. The Vegas Golden Knights have been on the bubble. So this is a very interesting topic, Steele, considering that as much as you and I are both going to sit here and agree for sure that they have all the makings to go back and defend that cup, they only have a 4-point cushion on the St. Louis Blues. And I'm going to talk about the St. Louis Blues when it comes to some waiver wire targets, because they have been looking really good. So we can talk all about, we like Logan Thompson. This might not be too big if Adin Hill can come back. Number one, fantasy GMs down the stretch here. If you're in one of those leagues that you're still within striking distance, Adin Hill, when he has been in there, has been sensational. You're going to have to scramble. And the Vegas Golden Knights need to pick up wins, Steele. So let me leave it at this with a question for you. You worried about the Vegas Golden Knights? Because I still think they have more than enough talent to punch their ticket, even though the St. Louis Blues are creeping.
I'm not worried with the Vegas Golden Knights, but I'm keeping a close eye on all three of those teams, Vegas Golden Knights, St. Louis Blues, and the Minnesota Wild. It was a tough loss for the Wild against the Blues in overtime the other day. Marco Rossi had the game winner on his stick.
Yes, sir.
Ends up going back the other way, and I believe it was Brandon Saad.
Huge momentum swing, too, for a team on the bubble.
Huge 2 points for the St. Louis Blues right there. Blues who are down by 4 points, like you said. But over to waiver wire targets, and I guess we're going to be touching on a lot of those teams, on some of those players. I'll start off with Chandler Stephenson of the Vegas Golden Knights, rostered at 24% on Yahoo right now. Only 2 teams have 4 games this week, that being the Anaheim Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't think anyone wants a piece of what the Ducks are doing right now. They have been absolutely atrocious, even though they won their last game. So we're going with Chandler Stephenson and any Vegas Golden Knight players because they've got the most games this upcoming week. Stephenson, 15 goals, 44 points in 66 games. He doesn't produce much in the peripheral categories, but he's playing second-line center right now with Anthony Mantha and William Carrier. He's got 3 points in his last 2 games, 4 in his last 5. He's playing on that top power play unit. He's playing in the top 6, like I said. And again, 4 games this week against the St. Louis Blues, the Nashville Predators, back-to-back on Monday, Tuesday, and then finish up the week against the Winnipeg Jets and Minnesota Wild. So they're playing 2 teams, 3 teams that are, right there, 2 teams that are chasing them and 1 team that's ahead of them in that first wild card spot. Blues, Predators, and Minnesota. This is a massive week for Vegas.
Guaranteed. And actually looking at their game on Saturday night against the Blue Jackets, which, for betting purposes, I was looking at very closely. Yeah. They actually started that game quite poorly.
Yes,
and these are the situations that if you are only have a 4-point cushion in the playoffs on the playoff spot and the Blue Jackets roll into town, they turned it around. They played a lot better. They win 4-2, covering the puck line by the by. That's totally different story. So I'm not even a little bit worried about the Golden Knights as long as they're able to continue to get it done against the teams that they need to. So I got my eyes peeled on them as well, Steele, and I'm here for this Chandler Stephenson take because I think given their schedule, I'm going to take a look at every single piece that's contributing on a team that we expect to get it done down the stretch. That just makes sense. That's not a bold take. We got a couple of more bold takes coming up right around the break. More waiver wire targets, Monday's bets. Today's episode short and sweet, but also brought to you by Game Time. You never want to be stressed out when you're buying tickets to your favorite events, comedy, theater, sports, obviously hockey. You want to be downloading the Game Time app to give you complete peace of mind with every single purchase. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of your favorite event. Even an hour before it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats for exclusive flash deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Are you out there watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Continue to hit that subscribe, hammer the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all the conversations, the feedback, everything our listeners show us on a daily basis. So thank you so much for that. Hope everyone enjoyed their weekend, starting off the Monday proper.
Boom.
Hope everyone's in the playoffs right now with their fantasy teams.
Boom.
Flip over to you.
Yes,
first waiver wire target for this upcoming week.
First of all, I find it kind of hilarious and ironic that we're telling people to, if you're sick of the yelling and they're tuned into me and you, who I definitely do a lot of yelling. But anyway, that's why we love our listeners. And that's why I got a couple of good targets. And look, Steele, I don't even care if I'm a broken record. If you haven't taken a look at Anthony Duclair, it's a mistake. Look, hey, there was a couple of sneaky ads at the deadline. Duclair is looking to be one of the best ones. And I don't even care if you don't like this take. And look, 2 games this week, Bruins and Islanders, I understand. But this is an ad that I add now, and I don't move him because I don't see him moving off the top line. He's playing with Point and Kucherov, Steele. I could be on the top line with those 2 guys playing at the level right now. Kind of confused. I'm getting a couple assists every single night or a goal's going in off my forehead. That's just how good Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov are. So Anthony Duclair, and let me bring up the numbers because he's out there. 26% ESPN. That's up almost 10% in a week. 49 on Fantrax, 33 on Yahoo. Like I said, only 2 games this week. Go out and add Anthony Duclair now and just keep him for the rest of the season. Thanks, Steele and I later.
Yeah, there's no problem whatsoever mentioning Anthony Duclair on today's waiver wire targets. I would just, you pointed it out yourself. Tampa Bay only has 2 games this week. That could be maybe the minor issue there, but he's been firing on that top line right now. So Anthony Duclair, he's been one of the best trades so far at the trade deadline. I've got a couple of teams in that or a couple of players in that Atlantic division as well.
I like
2 from the Boston Bruins. Let me start off with Jake DeBrusk. He has found himself on a little heater right now. In his last 8 games, 10 points, 25 shots, 13 hits, and 7 blocks. Currently on a 5-game point streak, and he's rostered at 46%. Starting off with him. Maybe also give this kid a look who's playing on the 4th line, Justin Brazeau of the Boston Bruins. He's had a pretty successful career in the minors. OHL, AHL, ECHL, you name it. He's been there. 26 years old, just joining the Boston Bruins this season. In his first 15 NHL games, 7 points. He's a +6, 28 shots, 31 hits, and 9 blocks. He's got 5 points in his last 3 games as well. So those are 2 kids right now, or 2, Jake DeBrusk and Justin Brazeau of the Boston Bruins. I would say the one downside, obviously, with this Justin kid, he gets anywhere from 11 to 13 minutes a night on that 4th line, but he is making the most of that opportunity right now. 3 games this week for the Boston Bruins, but it's a tough schedule. Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Washington Capitals. This is a week where Boston is really going to need help with their depth scoring.
2 losses in a row as well for the Bruins, and I'm pretty sure after those conversations you and I had about ease of schedule, can almost guarantee that the Bruins were actually right there at the top in terms of the toughest schedule. So not like that pains
That's why
me
they're going to need help with the depth scoring.
Not like it pains me to say that at all, Steele, given our allegiances. But I just also want to point out the fact that the Bruins, once again, are almost the best team in the entire NHL in terms of points, which, once again, I don't know what kind of voodoo pact this franchise has with the devil, but it's okay. We're going to get through it, baby. And you and I are going to cover all of the angles for the postseason. Bets, under the radar players, previews, predictions. We got it all coming, including Monday's bets. I like these takes, Steele, and I'm here for it. Although I'm really liking, once again, a player that you and I have talked about. Can somebody throw some respect on Jake Neighbors? Because this kid has come out of nowhere. Come on. I'm going to stick to my guns here because I'm going to say maybe 4 out of every 6 players I really talk about a lot pan out. Have a look at Seth Jarvis. Thank me later. Anyway, Jake Neighbors has 25 genos this year, and he is on a line in St. Louis that I find to be very intriguing and producing a lot of value. Robert Thomas, I don't need to sell you on your boy. Braden Shen, and a young kid in Neighbors who has a nose for the net. I really like that line. The Blues are playing great. And why not take a look at a combination of all of those things? And Jake Neighbors, 8% on ESPN is a joke. Even 38% on Fantrax is a joke. They have the Sharks, the Flames, and the Knights. Very much a mixed bag this week, Steele. But I'm going out there and taking a serious look at Jake Neighbors, a kid that just does nothing but produce.
He's been very good for the Blues this season, and one of those bright spots for them, alongside obviously Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou and a few other players who who are helping them right now, fighting for a playoff spot. My last waiver wire target for this week, Michael Bunting of the Pittsburgh Penguins, rostered at 28% right now. Seems to be enjoying his time in Pittsburgh so far. 8 games played.
We talked about Bunting.
Yes, it is. The reunion of Bunting and Dubas, but he's played 8 games in a Pittsburgh uniform. He has 6 points, 25 shots, 12 hits. He's playing almost 3 minutes more of ice time with the Penguins than when he was with the Carolina Hurricanes. He's on the second line with Evgeny Malkin and Brian Rust. He's on the first power play unit with them. 3 games this week. It's a revenge game against the Carolina Hurricanes and then 2 games against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I expect a lot of offense from this Pittsburgh Penguins squad led by Sidney Crosby.
Hey, I'm taking a look at Brian Rust. I'm taking a look at a couple of these options as well, Steele. I'm here for this take because, like you said, the Pittsburgh Penguins have been disappointing.
Yeah.
But you can't deny the effectiveness of what Sidney Crosby brings to whoever is around him. For me, taking a look at Brian Rust, he fits the bill big time. Did you say, I think they play the Blue Jackets twice this week?
Yeah, Blue Jackets twice.
Yeah, Blue Jackets twice. Full stop right there. That means you should be taking a look at whoever is in. No, seriously, whoever is in the top 6 of the opposing. Yeah. No disrespect to our vape legend, Troy, but the Columbus Blue Jackets are just a doo-doo squad straight up and down. Last waiver wire target, I'll save for right around the break, along with big time bets.
No, you get after it. Get after it. You can do it.
This is why I like this deal. And don't worry, I am ready for this ad read. Casey DeSmith. This was a bit of a talking point when obviously Thatcher Demko went down. And I think he's performed very admirably, especially over the last 3. And I know it's Montreal, Buffalo, and Calgary. 2 goals against, 1 goal against, 2 goals against, 3 wins. Casey DeSmith is holding down the fort right now, Steele. And I think there's something to be said about no matter who it is, if there's somebody getting a good opportunity as the quote-unquote number 1 with a number 1 team, I think you just immediately go out there and add them if you need a player or not. Kings, Stars, and Ducks this week for the Canucks. They got 13% on ESPN for DeSmith, 41 on Fantrax, 43 on Yahoo. He's out there. I'd be definitely taking a look at DeSmith.
And that's all the Vancouver Canucks really needed from DeSmith is just to get by with him, and he's performed, like you said, admirably. Yep. Just to be on the opposite side a little bit.
Ooh.
In the 4 games. I'm not saying not go out and get him, because I think if he's out there, you definitely go out and get him. But in his last 4 games, twice he's faced 24 shots and twice he's faced 17 shots. So he has not faced a lot of shots, which has been good for him. Also good for the Vancouver Canucks, who have 3 straight wins, or DeSmith has 3 straight wins. But again, I don't know what the Vancouver Canucks schedule is up this upcoming week, but
I had it here, I think.
Maybe take a look at the upcoming schedule for Casey DeSmith.
Kings, Stars, and Ducks this week.
That's not too bad, actually. That's
mixed bag again.
It's a mixed bag for the Vancouver Canucks. So, definitely go pick up Casey DeSmith if he's out there in your league.
Thank
and
you,
if you need
Steele.
help in the goalie department.
Thank you very much. And hey, I also had Thomas Harley on here for a little honorable mention, but I think everyone's sick and tired of me talking about him. He's on the
Don't
list.
worry. We'll be talking about Thomas Harley a
He's
lot
on
in
the
the
list.
offseason and for next year's draft.
Thank you very much. And I know it's very convenient that one of the names that I've been talking about a lot that hasn't performed, that I'm not talking about, Cole Perfetti, he's fallen off the list. He's out of the circle, Steele. He's dead to me right now. Seth Jarvis, my boy Lucas Dostal. You know, there's a mix of those guys that I like.
A mix of those
Jake Neighbors might be creeping into that mix too, but here we go. Take us to big time bets, pal. Hold on. I'm ready.
Well, let's get going on big time bets. We're going to continue talking about those Vancouver Canucks. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. It's the final stretch of the regular season, and teams are battling for position in all 4 divisions. Regardless of where you are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, but it's not just hockey. You can do daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, CFB on the Sleeper app, and you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Ovechkin, McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, all 4 of those guys are putting up crazy numbers right now. If they will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100-time bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome for 8 player stats. You heard me, Locked On Fantasy Hockey fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code Locked On NHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Have you ever seen an NHL player get off a team bus and think to yourself, gosh, I wish I could dress that nice? Well, with Indochino, you can. Indochino makes fully customized suits that don't require a trip to the tailor to get that perfect fit. Recently, I was shopping for a new dress shirt for my upcoming wedding, and when I decided to go with the Hyde herringbone shirt, I was blown away at all the customization options I had. I could change the type of collar, cuffs, and even decide whether or not I wanted a chest pocket, all while being incredibly affordable, especially given the quality of the product I was getting. New colors, fabrics, and outerwear styles are added regularly too, so it's easy to create your next look. Level up your game with Indochino. Go to Indochino.com and use code NHL to get 10% off any purchase of $399 or more. That's 10% off at INDOCHINO.com with code NHL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Great job over there, Flip, for getting the ad read in there. Let's get over to big time bets where the money is made. 2 games on the schedule. I believe you said you had a same game parlay for Monday.
Yes, I do.
So let us know what it is. All 3 picks coming at you at once.
Rapid fire, baby. Look, the last 10 games between the Vancouver Canucks and LA Kings, and that's where I'm headed. This is a tough board, number 1. I would usually stay away, but it's been a pretty good weekend, so let's get degenerate. 10 straight games between these two have gone under the number. Usually I don't read into those too much, Steele, and I know you and I might have a differing of opinions on this one. I'm just going to roll with it, even though both of these teams are obviously offensive-minded and it could easily go over. Let's go under. I'm going to ride with it for the same game parlay purposes. Anytime point for Elias Pettersson is going to pay you a pretty good odd right now because he goes kind of a couple of games with nothing, then he pops off for 2 or 3. Case in point, nothing against Montreal 2 games ago. 2 assists against Calgary last game, and he got a 3-point night the time before, a couple of pointless games. You see where I'm going here. In his career against the LA Kings as well, because you know I like bringing that up, Steele, he's got good numbers, so giddy up. 20 points in 16 career games. Some of the best games of his career have been against the LA Kings. Pettersson, anytime point. And like I said, I'm riding with the Canucks here. The LA Kings were lucky to get away with that dub on Saturday, even though I liked it in my parlay. They were lucky to get away with that win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm going with the Canucks. That's the same game parlay. I hope we make some loot.
Loving the same game parlay, loving the player props. You know what? I'm making a quick switch. I'm joining you on the under 6.5 in that Canucks game. Canucks Kings under 6.5. I'm going there with you. The trend is going under as well, but even just like their last 5 to 7 games for both these teams have been quite under the number for the Vancouver Canucks and the LA Kings. So under 6.5, I'm with you there. My player prop for this game, going back to my boy, JT Miller. Anytime goal. Gotta do it. He's my boy. He's my ride or die at this point in the season.
Definitely.
I'm becoming a villain with this whole JT Miller debate. So
I hit a big parlay steal. You're getting a JT Miller jersey in the mail for show.
Absolutely love that. Let's go JT Miller. Anytime goal. Canucks Kings under 6.5. And then I'm going to the other game in this one. Big game between the Golden Knights and St. Louis Blues. Taking the Golden Knights on the money line.
Realize that's
Golden
huge.
Knights on the money line against the St. Louis Blues on the road. Need to create more separation for them to get a little bit, calm down in this playoff race. My lock of the night, though, I'm going with JT Miller anytime goal.
Loving it. And actually, now all of a sudden, I'm really intrigued in that Monday night game. St. Louis, Vegas. That's beautiful considering there's only 2 games in. Look, no disrespect to the Kings and Canucks, which obviously has a lot of meaning as well. Vegas, that's going to be a very intriguing game because if they lose that one steal, you and I might be on here later in the week talking about the Vegas Golden Knights going all in at the deadline and completely missing out. That might be the first miss from this franchise in their entire history.
Might be. So it's a big 2 points. If the Blues win, they come within 2 points of the Vegas Golden Knights with the Vegas Golden Knights still having a game in hand on them. Yep. So it's a massive matchup on Monday night for these 2 teams. Actually, 4 of these teams on the schedule. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, go check out Locked On Sports Today's YouTube channel, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. They are here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. You can also find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Make sure you go do so. Wonderful things happening over there. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your bets, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Love you, Grandma.
Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, and you can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets.
You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets for your next big event. And with Game Time, you don't have to. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With incredible last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to champion your vehicle. From superchargers, exhaust kits, and more, with over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, eBay Motors levels your baby up to its peak performance. Plus, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.